I'm streaming. What
You
are
are?
you doing?
I thought you hadn't gone live. I hadn't seen the.
I am streaming.
I haven't seen the notification come on.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, now it is.
Giving everybody a peep show. Great. And away we go. Friday edition of the show. We made it. All across America on SportsMap Radio. All over the world on the SportsMap Radio app. Hey, Giancarlo Stanton ran from home plate to second base, and he's not getting pulled out of the game with an injury. It's a Christmas miracle. Welcome to the second half of the baseball season. Can we mute the television? Why do I hear the TV? Can we hit mute on that? Good to have you all with us tonight for 3 hours of fun and frivolity. And by the way, there's sports on tonight. We actually have sports to watch tonight. We made it through. Yes. We made it through the slowest week of the year in sports, and we have come through the other side. Other people took days off, time off, ran replays, all that's not us. We sat here the whole week and toughed it out, and we toughed it out just so we could get to tonight. Yankees and Rockies on our television here in Studio J tonight. Yankees trail the Rockies 4-2. Yankees trail the worst team in the National League 4-2, top of the sixth to start the second half of the Major League Baseball season. Oh, ain't that great? The good news is Giancarlo Stanton hit a 2-run home run tonight. And if you've been listening to the show this week, I guaranteed that Giancarlo Stanton would hit at least 13 home runs on the other side of the All-Star break to get to 400 home runs for his career, because I think he's going to get to 500 for his career. And I think a big part of that will be him getting to 400 by the end of this season. Tonight he hit his first home run of the second half in his first at-bat in the first game after the All-Star break. This is why you listen to this show, because we tell you things before they happen. Other people like to talk about things after they happen, and we sometimes will talk about things after they happen, but we like to try and be ahead of the curve. And yet again tonight, we showed why we will be ahead of the curve. Can they get Giancarlo Stanton home? This is the question. This is not good. Harrison Bader, weak pop-up to left field. Stanton gets stranded at third. Now there's 2 outs. Now it's going to take a 2-out base hit to get him in, and Josh Donaldson's up, which means Giancarlo Stanton in all likelihood will be stranded at third because Josh Donaldson is hot garbage. I mean, let's just be honest about it. As a baseball player right now, Josh Donaldson is hot garbage. He's hitting 149. He has 10 home runs, 15 RBIs. He has like 17 or 18 hits on the year, and 10 of them are home runs. He is the epitome of all or nothing. So that's how we begin the show tonight. Good to have you all with us, as I said. We will keep you up to date on all the baseball tonight, and I will definitely keep you up to date because I am so excited. I'm so excited that we just have games to talk about. By the way, Josh Naylor and Bo Naylor tonight go deep. Long balls in the same inning tonight for Cleveland on the road in Texas against the Rangers. How special does that have to be for the Naylor brothers? Atlanta just keeps up its winning ways, mollywopping the White Sox, who will most assuredly be dealers at the deadline, sellers at the deadline. Oh, Donaldson just missed it. Hit a line drive to left right on the screws. Ugh. Yankees can't get a break. The trail, the Rockies 4-2 going to the bottom of the sixth. Yeah, hope springs eternal. Come out of the All-Star break. Play the Rockies. It's right there for you. You lose to the Rockies. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. As I said, we'll keep you up to date on everything going on today. We got a busy show. We'll do a lot of baseball in the first hour because Brian Kenny of MLB Network will be here. Couple of segments with him in the 2-for-1 coming up about 25 minutes from now. Brian does a terrific job. The host of MLB Now on MLB Network, Monday through Friday, noon Eastern on MLB Network. So looking forward to hearing what he has to say about the second half of the season. And, of course, Shohei Ohtani. That is the sort of anvil hanging over this Major League Baseball season. What does it look like if Shohei Ohtani leaves the Angels? Whether it be via trade, whether it be as a free agent, no matter how it may be. What does it look like if the best player in Major League Baseball, arguably one of the best players in all of professional sports, full stop. What does it look like if that guy is traded at the trade deadline? What does it look like if he isn't traded at the trade deadline? And he walks away and the Angels get absolutely nothing for him. Zilch. Squatch. Squatch? Squat. What's it look like? We may get the answer to that question in a couple of weeks. So we'll get into that as we go through the show. We'll go through some of the odds, talk about all of that. Talk about one of my favorite things in all of sports, one of the most underrated things that you get in sports talk today. A Grand Slam final in tennis where you truly have the two best players in the sport meeting head-to-head for a Grand Slam championship. You're going to get that on Sunday morning. What do the odds look like for it? We'll talk about it. I'll tell you who I like and why as we go through the show. We'll do some NASCAR on the show tonight. Jerry Bonkowski is back. He's been under the weather. So Jerry is back with us tonight. NASCAR.com. They'll race at the mile in Loudon, New Hampshire this weekend, weather permitting. They have had some terrible weather in the Northeast, flooding. I'm telling you, man, it's we live in the end times right now, don't we? We live in the end times. You got flooding in Vermont. You don't think of when you think of flooding, you don't think of Vermont. And we've got like this end of the world heat wave that has engulfed most of the country. I live in Palm Springs. It is going to be close to 120 degrees tomorrow. Justin, it is going to be close to 120 degrees tomorrow. Justin Barbosa is our producer engineer working the show tonight in Houston. It's been a while since we've worked together, it feels like. It's going to be 120 tomorrow. Yes. It's so damn hot. Death Valley tomorrow, which is not far from here, is going to be 130 degrees. 130 degrees. That's only happened 6 times in the history of temperatures being kept, like for the last 110, 120 years, like since records of this stuff were kept. It will be only like, I believe, the 6th time that it will be 130 degrees. It will be the hottest place on planet Earth tomorrow. Think about that. Imagine what it's like to stand outside in 130 degree heat. I will tell you, I walked 2.5 miles this week at noon, around noontime. When it was 105 degrees, I walked 2.5 miles in shorts and a t-shirt and flip-flops. I didn't even wear sneakers. I walked 2.5 miles in flip-flops, t-shirt, and shorts. When it was 105 degrees. By the time I got home, I was delirious. So imagine if you're outside at 130. I wonder if you could actually cook an egg on a sidewalk at 130. Like, would an egg cook on the sidewalk at 1:30? I don't know the science of that stuff. We'd have to get like Bill Nye the Science Guy on the show. 130 degrees. Is that so? How interesting. She put banana bread in her mailbox and it cooked. Could you imagine the woman in Texas who came up with that idea? I'm going to put banana bread in my mailbox and watch it cook. It's great. You want to be a part of the show? We're going to have a good one tonight. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You want to text the show? Go ahead and do it. 888-670-8549. 888-670-8549. Hit me up on the text line as we go through the show. We haven't given anything away on the show in a while. Maybe Friday's a good day to give something away today. I don't know what I'd give away, though. I got tons of baseball cards. I don't know. I'm not sure. You got a baseball card you collect? Player you like? Hit me up on the text line, 888-670-8549. Maybe something will strike my fancy. 888-670-8549. As I said, we'll talk baseball this hour, so maybe in honor of that, we'll give away a cool baseball card to somebody who's if you got a certain team you like, hit me up on the text line. 888-670-8549. 888-670-8549. Maybe I'll actually give away a cool baseball card, maybe an autographed player card or something like that. I got so many cards right now. And if I'm not selling them, I might as well just give them away, right? Hey, you know the good news about the Yankees playing the Rockies is I get to see Ezekiel Tovar in person. RBI single tonight for the Rockies against my Yankees. We're holding on. That's the one card I'm not giving away tonight. That Ezekiel Tovar autographed card to 50 from Bowman. Bowman Inception, autographed to 50. 2021, Ezekiel Tovar. We're not giving that away. That baby's staying with me because he's going to be a stud. We're coming back. Talk Wimbledon, odds, and more. The cashing continues. Hey, Google, set the thermostat to 74 degrees. Why are you just leaving the lasagna there?
Oh, it's cooling. Oh, yeah, you're on break now.
Okay, setting the Nest thermostat
Huh?
to 74 degrees.
Because the instructions say let it stand. Plus, I was waiting for your segment to be over.
Dying to try a bite of the lasagna. We've got lasagna in Studio J tonight.
The Dookie is also very anxious to try the
There's lasagna in Studio J tonight. Mm-hmm. Look at you can tell I've been taking a nap today. I've got like this weird wing on the side of my head. Like right here. I can't put that down. No, I'm stuck with it. What's going on in Justin's world? Anything exciting? Yeah. Come on. I only got a 4-minute break. Try it. Okay, this is lasagna a la Chung tonight. Or is it a lasagna a la Trader Joe? Is it Trader lasagna? Oh. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's quite good.
Is that microwave or in the oven?
Do you want that? And I'll make another one myself. You want to eat that? And I'll make another one.
I'm coming back on now, so. That's good. That definitely saves some of that. Mike is hot, Justin tells me. So was the lasagna I just had a bite of. Happy Friday to all of you. Congratulations. You made it through the slowest week in sports. Outside of a few WNBA games this week, there was nothing going on. Speaking of the WNBA, they did their 3-point contest, the WNBA 3-point contest, which why they did it on like a Friday afternoon, I have no idea, but apparently that's what they do in Vegas and the way the WNBA handles their business. New York Liberty's Sabrina Ionescu broke the WNBA and NBA records for most points in a 3-point shooting contest. She hit all but 2 of her 3-pointers in the final round of Friday's competition, kicking off the 2023 WNBA All-Star Weekend. I'm just watching it now. Man, she was unbelievable. She missed her first shot, and then she missed one more shot the entire final round. Can you imagine? I'm watching her right now shoot wow. I think her and Stephen Curry should have like a 3-point shooting contest. We could set that up. You know, everybody, and she really is one of the best players in the world. But you think about it for a second, and, you know, it's hard to match up female and male players for the obvious reasons, right? If you have them playing against each other. And the women's game and men's game is so drastically different. There's the second shot that she missed. She missed 2 3-pointers in her entire. It's amazing. But the one area where you could test them against each other is in the pure shooting aspect of the game. So I think that'd be fun. Do a mixed 3-point shooting contest with the men and the women. I think that'd be fun. And we all like to think of, and I mean, imagine how bad it would be if, I mean, look, she has already tonight broken the record for both WNBA or NBA records for a 3-point shooting contest, right? So she's already smashed Stephen Curry in that regard, right? So now imagine they get on a court together and do something like that. That'd be awesome. Now, with that being said, women's professional basketball, the basketball is different. Basketball is a different size in the women's game than it is a men's game. So you know there'd be some Neanderthal out there that would go, well, it's not the same because the basketball is a different size. You can't compare the two. Shooting is shooting, man. When you did what she did tonight, I don't care, man, women, don't matter. It's just out of this world. And kudos to Ionescu, Sabrina Ionescu of the New York Liberty, one of the favorites, obviously, to win the WNBA championship this year. So we've got the dream scenario for Sunday morning. There aren't a lot of must-watch things in television these days. Sunday morning, you will get must-watch television. Not so much tomorrow with Marketa Vondrasova and Ons Jabeur meeting up in the women's final at Wimbledon. Vondrasova is plus 184 as an underdog. Ons Jabeur is minus 225. You just couldn't avoid making noise, right? Thank you. Appreciate that. The men's side, though, it's Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic. Keep this in mind. Novak Djokovic has not lost on center court at Wimbledon in something like 10 years. Like, it's some absurd statistic that's out there. Last time, did you see this, Justin? Last time Novak Djokovic lost on center court at Wimbledon. Have you seen this stat? It's insane. You ready? He has not lost on center court at Wimbledon, Novak Djokovic, since 2013 against Andy Murray. He's won 44 consecutive matches inside the most famous tennis stadium, arguably in the world. Think about that for a second. He has not lost there in 10 years. And he made it look easy today against Yannick Sinner. Sinner. And so did Alcaraz against Daniil Medvedev. So we're going to get the dream final on Sunday at Wimbledon. The match everybody's wanted. Could wind up being the match of the year. Now, remember, they faced off in the semifinals at the French Open. I told all of you to get up early and watch it. And then I felt like an idiot when the match basically ended in the third set because cramping issues struck Carlos Alcaraz. And that was basically the end of the match. Djokovic rolled. Went on to win the French Open. We all know the history there. He's now won, stat of the day. I said 44 straight wins for Novak Djokovic. He has won 45 straight matches after the win today on center court. And both of them have rolled through this tournament. I mean, you're getting the irresistible force against the immovable object on Sunday. It's Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. It's everything you could have wanted. And it's worth getting up early on Sunday morning to watch it. Hopefully you will. If you're on the West Coast, you'll have to get up 5 a.m. Eastern. Oh, joy. Nothing I'd rather do than get up at 5 a.m. Eastern on a weekend. But I'll do it to watch those two. The odds on that. Carlos Alcaraz is plus 164. Novak Djokovic is minus 200. It's a lot of juice. It's a lot of juice. And Alcaraz is the one guy that I think is capable of beating Djokovic on grass. Kick his ass on grass, Seabass. I don't know. It's certainly going to be a interesting match between those two, though. And there's all sorts of side bets you could do on it. To win the first set. I love Alcaraz to win the first set. Plus 124 on Alcaraz to win the first set. I think he's going to win the match. I'm a little scared if it goes the distance. Because if anybody's been paying attention, Alcaraz has had these cramping issues pop up. Now in a couple of major events, one the French Open and I think once in Miami. So that is something to watch, how he controls his nerves. Because cramping comes not just from being in shape, what you drink, what you eat. It could actually come from stress, strain, nerves. And Alcaraz has shown in these situations that cramping can become a problem for him. If he doesn't cramp up, I think Alcaraz knocks off Djokovic. I think we're starting to see the turn with some of these other great players who've been knocking on the door, and Alcaraz is obviously one of those guys. We saw what he did at the U.S. Open last year. And now he'll have an opportunity to win his first Wimbledon title. Those two squaring off again Sunday morning at 5 a.m. on the West Coast, 8 a.m. Eastern. Hopefully you can get up and check it out. Let me know. Who do you think is going to win the match? Hit me up on the text line, 888-670-8549 on the cash-in text line, 888-670-8549, 888-670-8549. Shoot us a text, let us know. We did our Twitter poll last night on the show. I asked you guys who you thought, whether you thought Shohei Ohtani would be traded. And when the results came back, you guys said no. He will not be traded. Very surprising. The poll results, Shohei Ohtani be moved by the August 1st trade deadline? 45.3% of you said yes. 54.7% of you said no. There's still 13 minutes if you want to vote. On my Twitter feed, at the back page. Go there now. On Twitter, at the back page, you will see the poll question there. Rockies still lead the Yankees 4-2. They're going to lose to the Rockies to start the second half of the season. Brian Kenny from MLB Network is on the other side. Stay with us. Continuing on this Friday edition of the show, and I promised him all week, Brian Kenny hanging out with us from MLB Now. Does a terrific job there Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. All right, let's start with the Ohtani stuff first and nail that. Buster Olney certainly had a lot of people talking yesterday, suggesting the Yankees are the favorite to land Ohtani in a trade deadline deal. What was your reaction to that?
I don't know. I think it's still possible. I think the Angels, from everything I'm hearing,
So I want what? Really? Is every single thing going to come back to bed? Seriously? Everything?
Do you need a spoon? You also, as in rather a spoon or a fork? Okay. Yeah, another spoon. This one they use.
Continuing on this Friday edition of the show, and I promised him all week, Brian Kenny hanging out with us from MLB Now. Does a terrific job. No. Normal rejoin's fine. Thank you for being with us. SportsMap Radio. SportsMap Radio app. Brian Kenny will join us in a couple of minutes. Does a great job with MLB Network. The host of MLB Now, noon Eastern, Monday through Friday on MLB Network. Long-time friend of mine who I worked with back in our NBC Sports Radio days. Good series this week. Who would have thought at the beginning of the year that a series like Orioles-Marlins would carry any weight? Now, this is what you love about baseball. Yeah, you just don't see this in other sports. I mean, what would you classify as a Marlins-like surprise in the NBA this year? Was there anything like that? You want to say what? Sacramento, maybe? We knew Sacramento would be improved. Nobody thought they'd be, the third seed, fourth seed, whatever it was. I mean, in baseball every year, you're going to get at least one or two of these types of stories. This is why we love baseball so much on this show. I mean, the Marlins would certainly classify as that. We knew Baltimore would probably be around a 500 team. Nobody thought Baltimore be 54-35 coming out of the All-Star break. They win tonight. They're 20 over 500, 90 games into the season. No way anybody could have scripted that. Oh, boy. Chris Bryant, 2-run home run against Michael King, 6-2 Rockies. I can't watch this team right now. It's so frustrating. The Yankees are making me an angry man. All right. This will calm me down some. Continuing on this Friday edition of the show, and I promised them all week, Brian Kenny hanging out with us from MLB Now. Does a terrific job there Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. All right, let's start with the Ohtani stuff first and nail that. Buster Olney certainly had a lot of people talking yesterday, suggesting the Yankees are the favorite to land Ohtani in a trade deadline deal. What was your reaction to that?
I don't know. It's still possible. I think the Angels, from everything I'm hearing, are listening. I think they're loath to do it, and I understand why. In the real world, it's difficult to deal this guy. It's a franchise-changing event, and it would be a bad signal for the franchise itself. So I don't know. I don't know if that happens. Also, it's a rental. It's very dicey, the whole thing. It's a seismic player. You'd be doing it for a rental now. I don't know if it happens. Maybe it does, and there's other information out there. But I think the Angels are in a tough spot to make that happen.
Yeah, but look, I mean, if he's leaving, I know they're in a tough spot, but if the guy's leaving anyway, I mean, he's in that.
What if he's not?
But
what if he's not? What if you can negotiate with him?
I get it, but what he said in Seattle basically intimated if he's not on a win, if they can't win, that he's tired of losing.
Yeah, I know, but players say something? That. Jason, players say that, I want to be with a winner. Winning is so important to me. And if it's the most money and he's comfortable, he seems to be very, very comfortable. They won these sweepstakes before. Remember, it was kind of an open process last time around. They've won it already. They probably think they can win it. Now, maybe they have, and I don't know why Ohtani's people would do it. There's no play in it for Ohtani to say to the Angels, hey, look, I'm not coming back, right? It's always good to keep a bidder interested. So he wouldn't do that. And I think they want to keep him. And there's a chance they keep him. By the way, people get very comfortable playing in Anaheim. And look at Mike Trout, very comfortable there. And we're going to win. Yeah, winning's important. They're not losing. They're not like, he's not going out there losing every day. They're just barely over 500. So if you're saying over the next 10 years, can they win? It's possible.
How about the Rangers? I mean, look, again, as a potential spot for Ohtani, if they do deal him at the deadline, they already went and got Chapman. We know the talent on this team. We saw all the all-stars they had. Could the Rangers go the rental route? It's such an expensive rental, but they have the prospects. They have the package.
It is interesting. I mean, maybe. I don't know if he wants to, if he want to go there, if it's worth the package to have him there. I'll say this. If you were, and this is a different way of thinking about it, if you were going into a playoff series, who's the number one player to impact that series? It's that guy. He can pitch 2 games for you in a series, not the wild card, but in a division series, he might be able to pitch twice. He can relieve, and he's slugging 600. So yeah, he'd be worth it as a rental, I would say. I just don't see the Angels doing it in the real world.
It's just such a game-changing amount of prospects. We saw what Washington got in the haul for Juan Soto. And
that was 2.5. They had 3 years of Soto, 2.5.
Yes.
3 playoff runs. Very different situation.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. But I mean, you're talking about a franchise-changing, potential lot of prospects here for a team. And you could still bring back Ohtani in free agency if you're the Angels in that.
Well, now I don't agree with that either. I think if you trade him away and you think, hey, we'll negotiate and he'll just come on back. I don't know. It's not like it severs the relationship, but it doesn't help it. Whereas if he's still there and he's your guy and you can talk to him all the way up, because if he's yours, you can talk to him the whole way through. You have a real advantage. And I think they probably feel that way. He's been happy there. Again, this whole thing about, I want to win. What is he supposed to say when he's in front of everybody? You got to say something. I get it.
Hanging out with Brian Kenny, MLB Now, weekdays, MLB Network. You mentioned Trout, and I think it's kind of interesting. If Ohtani leaves in free agency and this thing starts to sort of disintegrate into a rebuild, a retool, can you see a scenario where Trout, who again has never really had much of an opportunity in the postseason, turns to the organization and says, look, I want to go somewhere where I can win? And would they acquiesce that? One, does he strike you as the type of player that would ask? 2, do you think they would acquiesce?
It's possible. It's a big deal. It's a lot of money per year. He's also getting injured a lot now.
Yeah, every year.
We've kind of reached that point where it's a tipping point, because last year, I'm off the top of my head, did he play 119 games or something like that? Yep. And he'd have 40 homers in 119 games. So it's not like he missed half a season, but he missed a good portion of the season.
Always enough that it cripples their season. It feels like, Brian.
Right. No, you're right. That's what I'm saying. Last year, with 40 homers, it's like, wow, he didn't not show up. But you're getting to the point. You're looking at his 30s, and he's been very sporadic playing in his late 20s. So if you're the Angels, you do have to be a little more serious about that. If he comes to you quietly and says, look, what are we doing? I think you do have to listen to that. Where I would have thought that would be an outlandish thing a year or 2 ago. But we're at the point now where he's not playing full seasons, and he's an awful lot of money. And he'd bring an awful lot back. And who knows, maybe a change of venue helps him. But it is starting to make more sense for the Angels, given that, he's playing 100 to 130 games per year anyway.
Give me the first half team that has surprised you that you think comes back down to earth over the next 10 weeks.
Oh, I think you changed your question there. I was already going to say Reds, but then comes down to earth, Marlins. Those are my answers.
Really? The Marlins?
Reds? Oh, yeah. Yeah,
good for such a big sample, though.
Yeah, you look at their production, and they should be about a 500 team. Now, doesn't mean they have to be a 500 team. They could be better than that. They have been better than that. Again, I'm saying I don't believe in the Marlins to be a playoff team. But if you had asked me at the start of the year, hey, do you expect them to be 13, 15 games over 500? I would have said no as well. So I'd be wrong on them. I guess there's upside in that Alcantara and Chisholm can play and play well. They haven't. They're supposedly their 2 best players haven't even played well. In Chisholm's case, hasn't played really much at all because of injury. And they've still been able to play quite good. So, but I don't believe. I mean, their raw production doesn't speak to that. The Reds, They've got 6 position players that have all arrived that all have an OPS plus of 120 or better. 6. So that is a strong foundation. And Ellie De La Cruz and Joey Votto has come back. Their pitching is better than it's been in the first half. So I think the Reds are absolutely for real and a ton of fun. I think the Marlins are a year away, and they've been a very big surprise to me so far.
Brian Kenny coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Just to update you, by the way, 6-2 Rockies over the Yankees. They play in the top of the 8th inning. Good news is Giancarlo Stanton hit a home run tonight. He also got a double. I got to ask Brian about, and we'll get into it with him on the other side, about Luis Arraez. Is the run for 400 real? I mean, he's hitting, 386, 387 coming into tonight. We'll get into it with him. See what he thinks of Arraez's chances of getting to that magical number that only Ted Williams has gotten to in anybody's lifetime. That's next. More with Brian Kenny on the Cash In. Stay with us. Continuing on this Friday edition of the show, and I promised them all week, Brian Kenny hanging out with us from MLB Now. I'll ask you about Ellie De La Cruz in a second here. If you're talking about the Marlins, you got to talk about Luis Arraez, 386, 387, whatever it is around the All-Star break here. How realistic is a potential run to 400 for him, especially when you look at what is around him in that lineup, the ability to sort of pitch around him. I know Soler has been fantastic. Did not expect that. Yeah, normal rejoin here is fine. Thank you. All right, let's continue the conversation with Brian Kenny of MLB Network. Does a terrific job as the host of MLB Now, Monday through Friday, noon Eastern, on MLB Network. Talked about teams disappointing, teams that have been a surprise that may disappoint in the second half. He talked about the Marlins. And Brian, Luis Arraez right now, a guy, hitting in the 380s, 386, 387 coming into today. How real is this run at 400?
I'll ask you about Ellie Cruz in a second here.
If you're talking about the Marlins, you got to talk about Luis Arraez, 386, 387, whatever it is around the All-Star break here. How realistic is a potential run to 400 for him, especially when you look at what is around him in that lineup, ability to sort of pitch around him. I know Soler has been fantastic.
400 is like a near impossibility. I mean, just on the sheer face of it. I haven't checked his batting average plus in a while. Batting average plus is your batting average as compared to your peers that year. Mm-hmm. His batting average plus was number one all time. It was better, Jason, than Nap Lajoie in 1901. He was hitting 440 because back in the old days, like guys were hitting 350 all the time. No one's hit 350 in the last 12 years. I did the research on this. So to hit 350 in this day and age is outlandish. Now, he has that stroke. We did a deep dive on his StatCast, profile. He hits between 90 to 95 miles per hour, which on the whole by StatCast is not considered a hard hit ball.
Yeah.
But it is a hard hit ball, right? 90 to 95. And that's his version of a hard hit ball, right? You follow me? Like he's not 6'3", 240 taking this big outlandish swing. He's left-hander. He's 5'10", 175, bang. But he hits the ball hard. 90 to 95 and between 5 and 20 degrees. That's what we call the Arraez zone, not a barrel zone.
Like Tony Gwynn.
What's that?
Feels like Tony Gwynn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In an era where nobody is doing that. So that has him in the 380s, which is remarkable. But man, I watched him do the first night where he did a 1 for 5 and he just hit a couple of line drives right to a glove. It's like, oh man, it's so hard. You go, 1 for 3, your batting average comes down like 1 for 3 with a walk. So watching him, he needs all these 5 for 5 nights to get it back. And he did, I think, 3 of them last month, but that's extremely difficult. It's a tall order, especially in this day and age with velocity. He's the number 1 contact hitter in the game, but man, it's so hard.
You gave me the first half surprise that you think goes the wrong way. Give me the first half surprise that's been a disappointment that you think does still have a run in them for the postseason.
Oh, look, I think I've been doing it on MLB Now, like on almost daily basis. The malaise clubs are the story of the first half.
Sure.
Mets, Padres, Cardinals, White Sox, Mariners, Guardians. These teams, we all thought they were getting better. It wasn't just that, hey, they were good, but they're old. No, they were all supposed to get better. I immediately kind of wrote off the White Sox and Cardinals in their own column because it's like Cardinals are a disaster. White Sox, a disaster again, post La Russa. Not Tony's fault anymore. There's something just wrong that's not happening. But the Mets and Padres are like their own entry, aren't they? I mean, we didn't expect that. The number 1 payroll of all time, the number 3 payroll in the game, that's the Padres, and they are below 500. That's the most stunning thing of the season, that money did not get them entry into wild card position. Here's something I'm going to throw on my show today.
Sure.
Do you know the top 4 clubs in payroll are not in playoff position right now? It's also the Phillies and the Yankees. Top 4. And Jason, that doesn't happen. Usually if you're top 3 or 4 in payroll, you're getting into the playoffs. It doesn't mean you're the best team, but you're getting into, especially these playoffs, 6 deep in each league. But to answer your question, Padres have the production. They have the raw production, the raw talent, and it's fairly youthful. I'd be stunned if they don't make the playoffs.
Lucas Giolito, you mentioned the White Sox. That could certainly be a guy on the move at the trade deadline. And the Mets, Steve Cohen basically said everybody other than Justin Verlander could wind up being moved. If it's not bolted to the floor, the Mets could be moving a lot of guys.
Yeah, but it's tougher for them to do it too. Again, this is my preface that I say, in the real world, it's tougher. You and I like to play ruthless GM, flip the assets. Come on, let's go back up the truck, back it up. But in the real world, if you were the GM of the Mets, you'd be loath to just break it up already. There is a long way to go. Like, I know are they 8 out, 7 out? I think they're 7 out.
Oof.
There's a long way to go. You have to have some belief in your original plan. And if you're the Mets, like, the alternative is to really retrench. And that, I think, would be doubly painful. They're in a tough spot. I think they're better. If I'm in the real world, I play it out if I'm them.
Yeah. Last one. I know you got to go. You talk to a lot of baseball people. We talk a ton about Ohtani. Outside of him, is Ellie De La Cruz the most exciting thing in baseball right now?
Oh, yeah. It's so crazy. Here's the best part. So I'm doing something on him today in my essay as well on MLB Now. He has the best arm in the infield. He has the hardest throws. He throws 97 from third base across the diamond.
Sean Dunston back in the day.
Yeah, he's not on a pitching rubber. He stays flat foot, throwing 97 across the diamond. He also, we know, he's the fastest guy in the sport. Fastest guy, home to first and home to third. Number one. He's top 15 in one of the hardest hit balls. He's hit the ball 116 miles an hour. He's hit the ball, I think, 440 feet. So he's not the hardest hitter in the game, but he's about the hardest hitter, and he's the hardest thrower, and he's the fastest runner. And he's hitting 325. Jason, he's a polished player. Like, his slash line is attractive. 325, I think it's like a 380 on base. So he takes some walks here and there. He's not all hacking. And he's slugging like 525, 530. So he's polished. Like, as soon as I saw him playing a game, I was like, wait, he knows how to play. So he's not just some tools monster, some StatCast darling, some freak of nature. He's a good baseball player on top of that. So the answer to your question is yes, absolutely.
Brian Kenny, catch him weekday afternoons, noon Eastern, MLB Now on MLB Network. You're always generous with your time, my friend. I appreciate it.
Take care, Jason. See ya.
Love Brian Kenny. Glad we got to get him on the show tonight. Speaking of some of these teams, let's just run through them here real quick before the top of the hour. The Mets are a mess. They trail. Actually, that's gone final now. Dodgers beat the Mets tonight 6-0. The Mets are 42-49. They're 19 and a half games out in the NL East. And they're 8 games out of the third wild card spot, which right now belongs to the San Francisco Giants. I mean, let that sink in for a second. This could be, I'm telling you, I am lamenting the fact that I'm not going to be on the air on the day the trade deadline hits, because we're going to see movement like I don't think we've ever seen. Because you've got teams with enormous payrolls that are staring at an opportunity to unload some of that money on these teams that have just been colossal disappointments. And I don't think we've ever seen, and I'm not one that is want for hyperbole, an exaggeration. But I would challenge anybody to tell me when we've had a trade deadline quite like this one, where you've got teams. I won't put the Yankees in that category yet because they're right on the edge of the wild card. But you've got the Phillies. You've got St. Louis, some high value assets. San Diego, the Mets, the Angels with Ohtani, the White Sox. I mean, there are some really big names that are going to be available at this trade deadline. And do teams blow it up and go retool with minor leaguers and things like that and go get some high value prospects? Or do they just ride it out and say, it's an anomaly, it's an off year? The rule changes, whatever you want to cast it up to. I mean, heck, what if the Yankees go in the tank the next 2 weeks? The Yankees have almost become unwatchable for me right now. And I don't think I've ever felt that way. This team just feels flat out unwatchable. Trailing 7-2 in Colorado, uninspiring game. in Denver tonight after they jumped out to a 2-0 lead with Giancarlo Stanton hitting a 2-run home run. I mean, they are an unwatchable team without Aaron Judge in that lineup. And if you ever needed proof about why that guy was an MVP last year, he single-handedly got this team into the playoffs last year. And you're finding out what life without Aaron Judge would look like if the Yankees hadn't re-signed him. Another hour of the cash-in right around the corner. Aaron Judge took batting practice on the field prior to tonight's game against the Rockies. First time he's done so since tearing a ligament in his right big toe on June 3rd. Not limited at all. Says making progress, still got no date. Aaron Boone says has not been a discussion regarding potential minor league rehab games. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, leave it to my husband. He brought up a really valid point. If the Yankees suck the next 2 weeks, why even bring him back? Let him heal. Let him heal. Yeah, I mean, if it needs surgery, then do surgery. You know, like, you're playing the long game with him in that contract. Jesus. That is so bad. Look at this. Swing and a miss and get hit by the pitch. Oh, my God. That's embarrassing. So bad. The team is just so bad. So bad. The team is unwatchable. Game over. 2 outs. Right down the middle. Oh, shut up. It's right down the middle. Great. Ugh, can't watch. Jesus. Couple of hard hit balls. What happened? Yeah, they're a juggernaut offensively. Wow, Nolan Jones. Nice play to end it. Just unwatchable. Can we just cancel the rest of the show? I just want to go to bed. So over it. Got an unwatchable Yankees team. They lose 7-2 in Colorado tonight. I got Billy McKinney, Frenchie Cordero getting at bats in this game. I got Billy McKinney swinging at balls that hit him. It hit him. And he swung at it. Sean Casey is the new hitting coach. How'd that work out tonight? Oh, yeah. It's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's absolutely horrendous. Hey, but Aaron Judge took batting practice today. No timetable for his return. Don't get excited. And why even bother? I mean, if the Yankees go into the tank here in the next 2 weeks, why rush him back? If he needs surgery on the toe, and you never want to do surgery in the feet and the toes because you can really screw somebody up for good. It's the last option you ever want is surgery on your feet or on your toes because you are talking about tiny, tiny parts. And I guarantee you they are mortified of the prospect of having to do surgery on that Aaron Judge big toe that has torn ligaments in it. And he wasn't limited in BP at all today, but the reality is that thing's going to be troublesome for him for the rest of the season if he comes back. And then the question is, why even bother bringing him back? Why do you bother bringing him back at this point? If the season's essentially, not going anywhere. Wow. Cleveland was up on Texas 4-3. It's now 12-4. That game go final? Oh, that game's gone final. All right. 12-4. Texas just continues to roll. I'm telling you, want to look for an outlier or a team with an outside shot of landing Ohtani as a rental. Texas is it. There's no chance he would re-sign there. There's no chance he would go there as a free agent. But you go get him as a rental, you could be talking about the Rangers as the world champions. I don't think that is out of the realm of possibility at all. Yankees are unwatchable. Baltimore wins again tonight, beat Miami 5-2. They're red hot. Baltimore might win the AL East. I mean, that's not, again, not pie in the sky stuff here. Baltimore might win the AL East. Baltimore, same number of losses as the Tampa Bay Rays. Tampa Bay 58-35. Baltimore with the win tonight to 55-35. Rays and Royals were postponed because of rain, which is probably a good thing because Baltimore's got about 3 games to make up on Tampa Bay anyway. But the teams have the same number of losses. 58-35 for Tampa Bay, Baltimore 55-35. Baltimore got off to a sluggish start. They're actually, since the first 20 to 25 games of the season, they've been better than Tampa Bay. Looked like the Orioles might be hitting a funk. Then all of a sudden they won the last 2 against the Yankees, and they have rolled since then. They've won 6 in a row, 7 of their last 10. Boston, by the way, you want something to think about? With the loss tonight, Yankees are tied for dead last in the American League East right now. The Yankees are a last-place team in the American League East right now. I can't take it. I'm rooting for a last-place team. Justin, I'm rooting for a last-place team right now. I mean, I remember in the 80s and early 90s when the Yankees were just absolutely awful. You'd be talking about 3rd place, 4th place every year. Before Gene Stick Michael, Buck Showalter, eventually Joe Torre turned things around. The Yankees are dead last right now. Funny part about that is they'd be in 1st place if they were in the AL Central. The AL East is still a beast. I mean, the worst teams in the AL East are 49 and 43, which is just remarkable when you think about it. Tampa Bay is, or I should say Boston and New York are both 49 and 43. The difference is Boston's won 9 of their last 10. The Yankees have lost 6 of their last 10. So that's where we are right now. I'm going to flip over and watch the Mariners tonight because I need something to get my mind off how bad the Yankees have been. Because this was tough tonight. Watching the Yankees play that bad out of the All-Star break, you're thinking, hey, we're going into Colorado. The schedule's set up right. You get the Rockies, then you get the Angels. Angels have basically gone into the tank with all their injuries. The Rockies have been the worst team in the National League. Maybe we're set up for this thing to just go totally south for the Yankees right now. Maybe that's where we are. Ezekiel Tovar, a base hit and an RBI for the Rockies tonight as that young man continues to hit. Nolan Jones tonight. 6th home run of the year. He continues to have a fantastic season in Colorado after Cleveland gave up on him. Guarantee you the Guardians, who have 0 offense on that team, are wishing right now they had somebody the likes of Nolan Jones who could contribute. So we'll keep an eye on the games as we continue to go through the night. We'll do some NASCAR in this hour. Our usual weekly Friday spot resumes tonight with our friend Jerry Bonkowski, who does a terrific job over at NASCAR.com, Auto Week, and AutoRacingDigest.com. This weekend, NASCAR is in Loudon, New Hampshire, one of the most venerable spots in the racing world. And wait until you hear my dark horse pick for this week's race. I'm going to give you a rare Jason Page dark horse special for NASCAR this week. I think it's the Crayola 301 or the Crayon 301. I think it's actually, I swear, I think the race is actually called either the Crayola 301 or the Crayon 301. Weather's going to be an issue in the Northeast this weekend, though, so it's undetermined as to whether or not they get this race in this weekend. They might have to wait till Monday. They might have to wait till Tuesday before they can get that race off. And they may not even be able to finish it, which is even more of a reason to go with my dark horse pick for this week. There's a retirement in the NFL to tell you about. Former Pro Bowl defensive lineman Malik Jackson retired after 10 seasons. He says, I'm done. I'm not leaving the couch right now. Told Good Morning Football earlier today. He's 33 years old, spent his first 4 years with the Broncos. Helped them to their victory in Super Bowl 50. Played with the Jaguars, Eagles, the Browns. He didn't play last year. Malik Jackson hanging it up after 10 seasons. So there is that. Running back news in the NFL. We were talking last night on the show with Jason Cole, our friend from Outkick.com, their senior NFL writer, about running backs struggling to find work, veteran, established running backs, or in the case of Saquon Barkley, not being able to get the contract they want. By Monday, we could have a developing situation as it relates to Saquon Barkley. Well, tonight, the Bengals restructuring Joe Mixon's deal to keep him for the upcoming season. Mixon had a $9.4 million non-guaranteed base salary for this season, which represented a $12.8 million hit against the salary cap. That deal has been restructured. He will be with the team. There is no word on what the new deal for him looks like. I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. Those things never stay secret for very long. There's a disturbing story out of the NHL tonight. It's not anything, obviously, on the ice. There's no games going on. But there is a very disturbing story that has emerged from the NHL regarding one of the dumpster fires of the NHL, that being the Arizona Coyotes. Hello to our friends listening to us on KDUS in Phoenix tonight. Oh, just more reason to be proud of your Arizona Coyotes. We'll get to that coming up in a couple of minutes. I mean, just a bizarre. I mean, you want to talk about the most bizarro story that nobody probably had on their bingo card this year. We'll give it to you coming up in a few minutes. Oh, did Luis Castillo just get taken yard? Yes, he did. Detroit Tigers get a home run. Akil Baddoo. Baddoo! Solo Jack. Wow, Tigers lead the Mariners 3-0. Everybody was wondering what the Mariners would look like coming out of the All-Star break. They went in playing well. All-Star break may have come at the wrong time for them. Seattle, one of the disappointments in Major League Baseball this season. The disturbing story out of the NHL, we'll get to that on the other side. And by the way, Phillip Rivers might need to keep playing football. He might have to come back out of retirement. I'll tell you why next. Oh, boy. When's Jordan coming back? Is it? The Space Cowboys. Nice. The Space Cowboys. Yeah, Sugarland. Roger Clemens pitched a game for them. Made him famous. Who did? Really? I don't know how I missed that. I don't remember that. That's wild. Coming up in a couple of minutes, a bizarre and disturbing story out of the NHL. Well, let me start with the funny one. You remember Antonio Cromartie played in the NFL for a number of years? I think the last team he played with, if I'm not mistaken, was the Jets. How many kids does Antonio Cromartie have? 14 kids with 8 different women. I mean, the Crow Show is no joke, man. Antonio Cromartie. I still don't know if he ever officially retired. 14 kids with 8 different women. That is a busy man. He don't need no little blue pill at all, man. That guy, it's like the Energizer Bunny. You imagine, Justin? 14 kids with 8 different women? That's a lot of child support. Got bills to pay. Got bills to pay. I think they even did a reality show, if I'm not mistaken, called The Cromarties on USA for 1 or 2 years. 14 kids, 8 different women. Yikes. Keep it in your pants, man. You know the old saying, don't be a fool, wrap your tool. It's true. It's true. Now, Phillip Rivers has a similar situation, except they're all with one woman. Phillip Rivers, the former NFL quarterback, retired while he probably still could have played another year or two. May have to come back to support the 10 kids him and his wife have. He could almost field his own. I mean, you could have the Rivers versus the Cromarties in like a football game someday. 10 children now for Phillip Rivers. Can we do the applause thing? Because I want to congratulate anybody who can reproduce at that level, especially with one woman. Rivers and his wife Tiffany expecting their 10th child together. Rivers has served as the head football coach at St. Michael Catholic in Fairhope, Alabama, after 17 seasons in the league. We're all fired up, Rivers said. Everyone was pulling for a boy. Even our girls wanted a boy. 7 daughters. Oh, my God. He's got 7 daughters. Eeks. I don't know. Would you rather have women? Would you rather have girls or boys? I think that's the age-old question, right? Justin, do you ever want to have kids? You're still young enough. But I mean, you think you do want a child. I'm not trying to like set you up here or anything. I'm just curious. But if you wanted one, you'd want a boy. If you had your druthers, you'd want a boy. Yeah, I get it. I was always indifferent about having a child, and you should never have a child if you're indifferent about having a child. But as I've gotten older and I've seen people with children, and I have friends who have children, there's a small part of me that wishes I had a child. Something to carry on my legacy. I can see Justin just sitting there laughing right now. What exactly would that legacy be is probably a good question. We've had one pretty much every 2 years, and now this is the longest gap, Rivers says. And they may not be done having children, by the way. Rivers has told the Indy Star that he and Tiffany weren't going to put a number on how many children they wanted. We thought we would be the 3rd generation of 9, but we decided to go double digits. And then, of course, he said, we didn't decide it. God decided. No, you decided. Trust me. There is no immaculate conception, dude. You had to do your work. I mean, you had to do your part. So did she. Let's be honest. And we're talking about him, but bless her heart, his wife. 10 times going through, 9 now, but it's going to be 10 times going through childbirth. I mean, look, if I were having kids, I don't even think I could watch it more than once, let alone 10 times. Oh my God. Well, from the sublime to the utterly ridiculous. This story breaking just before we came on the air tonight. The Arizona Coyotes have released Alex Galchenyuk. He was arrested. He was arrested during a traffic stop last weekend, and new information's come to light on that traffic stop, where Alex Galchenyuk repeatedly used racial slurs towards a police officer in training and threatened to have 2 officers killed during that traffic stop. Scottsdale Police Department reports said Galchenyuk was erratic and aggressive towards officers after apparently crashing a car into a sign. He cited connections in Moscow while saying, quote, "I'm going to chop you, your wife, your daughter, and one phone call, and you're all dead. Your whole family, your bloodline is dead," police said in the report. Wow. Galchenyuk, who was born in the U.S. to Belarusian parents, spent much of his childhood in Russia, uttered a racial slur several times while referring to the officer in training, the report says. Coyotes terminated the contract due to a material breach of terms a day after placing him on unconditional waivers. Quote, "We're aware of the incident involving Alex Galchenyuk and strongly condemn this type of behavior. Once the club was made aware of the allegations, we immediately began the process of terminating his standard player's contract through the proper channels in conjunction with the NHL. He was arrested Sunday on charges of private property hit and run, disorderly conduct, failure to obey, resisting arrest, and threatening or intimidating behavior." Coyote signed him to a 1-year, $775,000 contract on July 1st, which was the opening of free agency. His third stint with the team. Played 11 games for the Avalanche last year, spent most of the year in the AHL. He may spend most of the next year behind bars. Not saying, just saying. A witness told police Galchenyuk was the driver when the car crashed, got out, laid on the ground, later told officers he was joking about the threats, the report said. Something tells me they weren't laughing. Detroit led the Mariners 3-2 and 3-0 going to the bottom of the 5th. The Mariners have responded with 2 of their own in the bottom of the 5th. It is 3-2 Detroit on top of the Seattle Mariners. Runner on second and third, and 1 out for Seattle. J.P. Crawford at the plate trying to get the Mariners back to even or better here. So we'll see what the Mariners can do. Again, one of those teams that struggled for much of the first half. I think their number is 83.5. for team wins going into tonight. I think that was their total in Vegas, and I said I loved the over because they really haven't had a big run yet this year. And you got to think that they're going to be a team that's above 500, even in the worst case scenario at the end of the year. Even if they continued playing as mediocre as they were this year, I like them for that over 83.5 number that we saw. Mariners are going to tie it, ground out by J.P. Crawford. Did the run not score on that play? Had to have. Was second. The runner stayed put at third. Are you kidding? How does this runner not go home on a ground ball in the hole that the second baseman dives for? Wow, that is some bad base running. That is some really bad base running. Well, if the Mariners don't wind up getting this tying run in or go-ahead run in, they'll look back at this fifth inning as one of the reasons why. Julio Rodriguez is up. We'll let you know what he does a little later on. All right, let's do some NASCAR. Switch gears. Literally. You like that? I said switch gears. Thank you. Jerry Bonkowski stops by the show from NASCAR.com, among other places. Talk about this week's race in Loudon. It's the Cash-In with me, Jason Page, on SportsMap Radio. Continuing on this Friday edition of the show, it's been a couple of weeks since we talked NASCAR with a good friend, Jerry Bonkowski, and he joins us on the program tonight. Of course, NASCAR.com, Auto Week, AutoRacingDigest.com as well. And it has been a couple of weeks, Jerry. And, you know, we're 2 weeks since we last spoke, and Chase Elliott still hasn't won a race.
You know, I'm starting to wonder about this. You know, I mean, time is running out on him, but you know, the thing is, we go to a track this weekend, weather permitting, obviously, in New Hampshire, that he has a very good chance of winning. It's a flat track. It's a
Continuing on this Friday edition of the show, it's been a couple of weeks since we talked NASCAR, friend. Continuing on this Friday edition of the show, it's been a couple we talked. Continuing on this Friday edition of the show. Yeah, that's fine. Continuing on this Friday edition of the show, it's been a couple of weeks since we talked NASCAR with a good friend, Jerry Bonkowski, and he joins us on the program tonight. Of course, NASCAR.com, Auto Week, AutoRacingDigest.com as well. And it has been a couple of weeks, Jerry. And, you know, we're 2 weeks since we last spoke, and Chase Elliott still hasn't won a race.
You know, I'm starting to wonder about this. You know, I mean, time is running out on him, but you know, the thing is, we go to a track this weekend, weather permitting, obviously, in New Hampshire, that he has a very good chance of winning. It's a flat track. It's a 1 mile track. I think that, you know, as you look at the remaining races we have before the playoffs start, this is probably one of the best chances he has of winning. So we'll see what happens on Sunday, again, weather permitting.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, the Miracle Mile, Loudon, this is obviously a track with a lot of rich history to it, isn't there?
It is. And, you know, the thing that the drivers really enjoyed racing there because it's really a track that's unlike any other track that we have on the circuit. I mean, you can probably draw some comparisons between it and Phoenix to an extent, but, you know, it is a very unique racetrack. And, you know, the guys just really like racing there, but you know, there's been so much going on in the Northeast, you know, from weather, and I hate to keep harping about the weather, but, you know, there's been so much devastation and flooding in Vermont, the state, you know, the next state over. Like last night, Thursday night, we had the Superstar Racing Experience debut. That was in Connecticut, and they had to cut that short because of rain. You know, this is not looking like a very good weekend, but you know, there's a lot of talk that they're going to do their best to get the race in, and you know, the problem is this is one of the situations that if the weather, you know, does become a factor, they could be in New Hampshire for, you know, maybe till Tuesday. You know, I mean, I've been in races in the past where they've had to delay it for 1 or 2 days. I remember back in, 2006, 2007, I think it was, in Michigan. I was there for 4 days, you know, before they finally got the race in. So, you know, it just hopefully we'll get the race in. But, you know, unfortunately, the forecast is not looking very promising for Sunday afternoon. So we'll just hope for the best and see what happens.
Before I get deeper into this race this week, there's also been some headlines this week. Obviously, Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus, among 15 finalists for the Hall of Fame. What were your thoughts on the list that we've seen?
Oh, I mean, you know, there's no question. I mean, these guys are first ballot nominees or, you know, winners. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that Jimmy gets it, Chad gets it. You know, there's obviously the thing that, unfortunately, that is involved with the NASCAR Hall of Fame is it's a numbers game, unfortunately. And, you know, we originally started seeing the classes where, you know, there were 5 guys that were, you know, accepted, and now we're down to 3. So, you know, 3 per year. But the thing is, you know, these are guys that are, you know, definitely going to be, I think, like I said, first-time ballots. They're going to win the thing. And, you know, the other thing, too, though, is some of the guys who have not made the Hall of Fame, who've not been selected, who've been in the ballot for several years, unfortunately, because of that numbers game, their chances of getting nominated and, you know, becoming chosen slip away more and more each year. So it's going to be unfortunate to see some guys may never get into the Hall of Fame that should be in the Hall of Fame. I'd like to be optimistic to think that at least some of these guys will get in there, you know, maybe, you know, a few years past the time they should have been in there. But again, it's a numbers game, and it's just unfortunate that that's the way the numbers play out, so to speak.
Jerry Bonkowski is our guest, NASCAR.com, Auto Week, AutoRacingDigest.com, the Crayon 301 this week in Loudon. Some of the guys that are being favored, at least in the books, Martin Truex Jr. is plus 500 at BetMGM, and the books say he is the biggest liability out there for them. 23% of the money on Martin Truex Jr. Handicap his chances for me.
Oh, he's one of the best guys when it comes to racing on that racetrack. So I think that, you know, you'd like to see guys like a Chase Elliott or guys who've not won a race, you know, indeed win this Sunday, to obviously increase their chance, or or at least guarantee them a spot in the playoffs. But like I said, time is running out on a lot of these guys, and when you have a track like Loudon, where you have a track that Truex is so good at, how can you pick against him? That's the problem. So I mean, as much as you'd like to see some of these guys who have not won a race win a race, unfortunately, the guys that have done very well in the past, they're the guys you have to pick because they've shown that they can do it there at places like that. So I like Truex. I like a guy like Kyle Larson. I think he's got a good chance of winning there. We've already talked about Chase Elliott, obviously, but this is also a track there that again, with weather, if they can get through with the weather, this is also kind of track where a lot of surprise winners come from. And I mean, you could say, well, guys, maybe a Kyle Busch will win. Well, he's already won 3 times this year, but I think that he has a good chance of winning there. But guys that have not gotten in the playoffs, this is their chance. This could be their best. It could be their only chance of making the playoffs if they were to win, and this is the best place for them to win, so to speak.
Jerry, Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Busch, Matt Kenseth, Kevin Harvick, the only ones who have successfully defended at New Hampshire. Christopher Bell is trying to do the same. Talk about Christopher Bell and his chances this week.
I like Christopher Bell, and again, he's the kind of guy that this is the kind of track that he loves. I mean, he's his entire career has been spent not just in NASCAR, but he's also been very good on flat tracks, sprint cars, midgets. I mean, he's probably one of the most versatile guys out there. In addition to a guy like Kyle Larson, they can race anywhere, and this is one of those kind of tracks that that background, that experience you've had on other kinds of tracks. Be they paved, be they dirt. This is the kind of track that really plays to a guy like Christopher Bell or Kyle Larson. So I think Bell has a good chance, but I think that, there's a lot of other guys that maybe have a little bit better chance to do well, and Truex is right at the top of the list.
Give me a long shot. I've got one in mind. I want to see who you think of if we're talking long shots here, somebody that not a lot of people are talking about.
Well, it's interesting you should ask me that, Jason, because I was looking through my media releases this morning, and a name popped out, and they think that he has a really good chance of winning, and you would think he's not that good, and I'll get to his name in a second. He's known more for being a road course driver. He has excellence in road courses, but he's won the Daytona 500, and that's the kind of guy is Michael McDowell. And I think that McDowell has a very good chance of winning this race, and he gets himself in the playoffs as well, too. So, like I said, a lot of guys who have not made the playoffs, who may be, anywhere between, let's say, 16th and maybe 25th in the standings right now, this is their chance. This is their best shot. And if they don't take advantage of the track they're going to be on, and another thing, too, is, and again, I hate to go back to the weather, but this is one of those races where, and I've been to New Hampshire a number of times, where they've had shortened races because of weather. So, this is not necessarily going to be a 301-mile race. It could very easily be a 152-mile race. Once they get past the halfway point, and if the rain comes, you win, you get the victory, you get into the playoffs. So, weather is something that the crew chiefs are going to keep a very close eye upon, and hopefully like I said, we'll get the race in at full length on Sunday. But don't be surprised if the rain shortened race as well, too.
I wish I could see your face when I say this, because this is one of the few times I haven't talked to you on video. How about Ryan Newman? He's won here, 3-time race winner. He's going off at plus 10,000. $100 wager wins $10,000. All-time record holder, 7 poles at New Hampshire. Give me some love for Ryan Newman.
Well, I mean, he did very well Thursday night at the Superstar Racing Experience race, and had that race not been shortened by rain, he very possibly could have beaten Denny Hamlin. He was coming very strongly. So, yeah, he does have a great track record. It doesn't exactly have the greatest equipment, but, again, anything can happen in a place like this. That's why they call it the Magic Mile. So I think that, it would not be out of the realm of possibility. But the problem is, if Newman wins, he doesn't make the playoffs. He's not full-time this year. So you have to be a full-time driver. You have to be in, I think, 24, or no, I'm sorry. You have to be in, I think, almost all the races to start to be, to win. So to make the playoffs. So even if he wins, he doesn't make the playoffs.
Jerry Bonkowski, check out his work. He has plenty of it. Does a great job. NASCAR.com, Auto Week, AutoRacingDigest.com as well. Good to talk to you, my friend. Hope we'll do it again soon.
Sounds good, my friend. Thank you very much.
Jerry Bonkowski joining us on the show tonight. All right. We'll update you on where we are in the night on baseball. Coming up in a couple of minutes. Get you up to date on where some teams are. We got Tom Brady news to get to as well. We'll do that on the other side on the Cash In at SportsMap Radio. Bum 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 bum. Put that in the podcast too. Yes, the Bonkowski interview is what I was talking about. Oh, he dropped it. Where is Detroit? Where is Detroit? Here's what's crazy. Detroit is 39-50 right now. They're 5 games out of first in the AL Central. Central is so embarrassingly bad. Wow. Home run. 5-2 Detroit. Eesh, 2-run home run. Wow. Tigers get a 2-run home run in the top of the 7th, lead the Mariners 5-2. Everybody's got these different home run celebrations. The Tigers one is interesting. They put on a hockey helmet, they get a hockey stick, and they shoot like a make-believe puck into a net or something like that. That's their thing. 3 home runs tonight for the Tigers. And a couple of those came against Luis Castillo. Tough night in Seattle so far. Still some time there. Top of the 7th. With the Tigers on top of the Mariners 5-2. We'll keep you up to date on everything going on there. Twins and A's 3-3 at the end of 5. Twins atop the American League Central right now with the Cleveland Guardians. Both of those teams on losing skids. Here's just let's put into perspective. I was just talking about this with Justin, our producer engineer on the show tonight during the break. 45-46 leads the AL Central right now. I mean, that should be a wager in Vegas. Will the winning team in the AL Central be over 500 at the end of the season? But here's how bad the AL Central is. You ready? Detroit is 39-50, 11 games under 500. They are 5 games out of first place in the AL Central. Like, the Tigers are still playing meaningful baseball games right now. This game at 39-50 still means something. The Tigers could lose tonight and be 10 games under 500 and still very much in the mix in the AL Central. And I'm sure they've got series left against Minnesota and Cleveland within their own division. Like, Detroit is still in play right now. And they're going to be 10 games. They're going to be 40-50 if they win tonight, which is still an if. It's madness. It's absolute madness. But that's what we got in baseball right now. This season is a season unlike any other. Astros lead the Angels 7-4, bottom of 6. Keep an eye on the Angels. If it goes really bad here over the next 2 weeks, I listen, people could keep saying this all they want. They have to be sellers at the deadline. There is not a planet where it makes sense for them to hold on to Ohtani and not trade him away and get the boatload of minor league and maybe even some major league assets that would come with dealing him. You take a shot at him again in free agency, where he's probably not coming back anyway because he's made it clear that if your team's not winning, he doesn't want to be there. And who could blame the guy? So is my guy not playing tonight? No, they're not playing Joe Adele tonight. That's kind of interesting. I thought he'd be in the lineup every day with Trout out of the lineup, but I guess that's not the case. 7-4 Houston as they play in the bottom of the 6th in Anaheim. Couple of hits each for Kyle Tucker and Jose Abreu tonight in that game, and hopefully Yordan Alvarez coming back soon for that team, as he is obviously a huge difference maker. Padres won tonight out of the All-Star break, beat the Phillies 8-3. Giants continue to play well, beat the Pirates 6-4. Cardinals and Nationals was suspended in the bottom of the 3rd with the Cardinals leading 1-0. Orioles beat the Marlins tonight. They are 20 games over 500. 5-2 Orioles over the Marlins tonight. Blue Jays beat the Diamondbacks 7-2. Braves beat the lowly White Sox 9-0. Brewers and Reds, big weekend series. Both those teams tied atop the NL Central. 1-0 Brewers over the Reds tonight. Victor Caratini's RBI single, the only runs in the game. Rangers scored 10 unanswered to beat the Guardians tonight, 12-4. Ruining a night for the Naylor brothers, who both homered for the Guardians in the loss. But for the Rangers tonight, wow. What a night. Nathaniel Lowe, 4 for 4. Hit his 10th home run of the season. Adolis Garcia, coming off the All-Star festivities, hit his 24th home run of the year. I mean, they got so many guys in that lineup Second rake. Just go get some pitching, please. Go get some pitching. They already got Chapman at the All-Star break, before the All-Star break. And I think that was their shot across the bow, that they're going to be buyers at the deadline if it means being able to make a run at a World Series. I think they made it abundantly clear when they went out and got Chapman. So a little bit of what's going on in baseball tonight. We couldn't possibly get through the week without a Tom Brady story, could we? Pro Football Talk, NBCSports.com. We all know Tom Brady is, of course, retired. But Buccaneers safety Antoine Winfield believes the team is trying to get him back out of retirement. Quote, I'm sure we're still reaching out to him, trying to see if he's trying to come back to the team, Winfield recently said on Richard Sherman's podcast. Hey, it could happen. Anything's possible. After Sherman said he doesn't put anything past Brady, Winfield said it's up in the air, man. I mean, the Bucs are carrying all this dead cap space, whether Brady is there or not. So it's probably better off if they could figure out a way to get him to come out of retirement. If he comes out of retirement, though, there's no way he's going back to play for Tampa Bay. Go play anywhere? You're going to go play with Tampa Bay next year? I don't think so. Buccaneers is not a spot that makes sense if he is going to play next season. I still think it's San Francisco, maybe Vegas. Some of the places that would be a possibility for Tom Brady. Another ridiculous NBA contract about to be given out. And it's not that I think Jaylen Brown is a bad player, by the way, because that's not what I'm saying here. But this Jaylen Brown contract that we're talking about, they're talking about the biggest contract in NBA history. They're talking about a deal that could be the richest contract in NBA history. Could be worth up to $304 million. And in the final year of that contract, get this, Jaylen Brown would make $70 million for the season. It's just, the numbers are just silly. The NBA contract numbers just continue to be flat out silly. It's just, you can't make it up. I mean, Jaylen Brown's a nice player. He's a good player. He might make a great head of the Players Association one day, too. He's very well versed in the union deal and all of that stuff. I mean, very outspoken in a good way on those issues. But $304 million for Jaylen Brown with $70 million in the final year. There's no way that deal turns out well. Everybody just has to take a deep breath when you see that sort of thing. But that's what they're talking about. Big deal for Jaylen Brown potentially in the offing. Some college football news to get to in the next hour, revolving around a SEC power. We'll get to that coming up in the next hour of the show. By the way, I mentioned Sabrina Ionescu's amazing performance in the three-point shootout tonight for the three-point contest in the WNBA All-Star Game. If you were wondering, was Steph Curry watching? He was. Stephen Curry commenting after her amazing performance where she missed just 2 shots in the final round of the three-point shootout for the WNBA's All-Star Weekend. Made 25 of her last 26 attempts. And even Stephen Curry was in awe. Tweeted, ridiculous, at Sabrina. That funny underline thing. I-20. Whatever that's called. What do they call that? The underline thing? You don't know? No, I'm not sure. It's not an underscore, is it? I'm not sure. But even Stephen Curry gave her some love coming out of that entire situation. So, We were wondering what he thought of it. And now we know. All right, stick around. We're coming back. Another hour, the final hour this week of the Cash In. Want to text the show, 888-670-8549. It's Friday, which means you could ask me anything. 888-670-8549. 888-670-8549. We're coming back. Can't see the base. It's tough to see. There's no way they're going to overturn that.
In New York, they have the ability to put the two shots side by side to sync it up and see if that what does in fact come off the back. Let's find out here. Call stands down lower is retired and Holston puts the Mariners down 1-2-3.
XC90 recharge?
It's very big. It's like 7.
No. It's got a third row?
I think there's a third row option. I don't know yet. People have a hint of stickers on
What, like the vehicle we drove this week? Now we're on like the iPad Mini. Who, Curry? I'm sure he appreciates that. True. That's my stomach. Sorry, what'd you say? Yeah, sure. Thursday, Friday / Saturday edition of the show. Thank you for being with us. We made it through the week. Slowest week in sports. It's a week where you just get into everything. Because there is not a lot of games to talk about. Of course, the action on the baseball diamond returned tonight. So, very interesting to watch. I got to watch this Netflix quarterback series because everybody's talking about Kirk Cousins being like this incredibly likable guy coming out of this thing. Gonna have to check that out, though. All right, run through a bunch of things here in this final hour of the show. Our 2 for 1 tonight, you'll hear from Brian Kenny, MLB Network's host, noon Eastern, Monday through Friday, MLB Now. We'll get into it with him on a whole host of MLB items as the second half of the season begins. The NCAA has put the University of Tennessee football program on probation for 5 years. The good news is they avoided the dreaded postseason ban. Former coach Jeremy Pruitt was fired in 2021. He gets hit with a 6-year show cause penalty in this verdict. Years-long NCAA infractions case. Pruitt's penalty for his part in the 18th highest level violations committed during his 3-season tenure as Tennessee coach. According to USA Today, it'll keep him out of college coaching for the foreseeable future. A show cause penalty means the university cannot hire a coach or recruiter without NCAA approval during the length of the ban. Former Tennessee assistant coach Derek Ansley is now an NFL defensive coordinator for the Chargers. He got a 2-year show cause order. I don't think he cares. Recruiting director Bethany Gunn got a 5-year show cause penalty. Pruitt's wife did not receive a penalty for her part in the violations. She previously worked in NCAA compliance jobs at 3 other schools. What a mess. What a mess. Oh, and Tennessee got fined $8 million, 50% of gross revenue paid to the SEC for Tennessee's participation in the 2020 Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. They got to vacate all wins and individual records in any game in which 16 individual sanctioned players participated. Those games will be announced later. They got to cut 28 scholarships from its roster over 5 years. Tennessee had already self-imposed 16 scholarships over the last 2 seasons. They got to cease communication with recruits for 28 weeks spread over 5 years. They have to end unofficial visits by recruits for 40 weeks over 5 years, cut 36 official visits by recruits over 5 years, and cut 120 evaluation days over 5 years. Is that all? Wow. Unbelievable. But Tennessee doesn't seem to be all that surprised about the hit that they took. So that's what's going on over at Tennessee. Next week is the Open Championship. And of course, I said, last night on the show when we were talking about the odds, watch Rory McIlroy. And at the Scottish Open, McIlroy has been fantastic. 10 under through 2 rounds. He is in the lead. In the lead-up event to the Open Championship. But I wonder if that's one of those things. Do you want to win that event leading into the Open Championship? I'm not sure you do. But we'll see. Whole bunch of guys on the leaderboard. Ryan Harmon, Sam Burns, all within a couple of shots of the lead. Padraig Harrington is 3 back. Who would have thunk it that he'd even be in the mix there? So, on the golf thing, Eamon Lynch wrote a great piece for USA Today. And, a lot of people are starting to come on board to my thinking. And I was saying this weeks ago. I was telling you weeks ago, I did not think this PGA Tour Live deal was a foregone conclusion. I saw a lot of different ways that this thing could go sideways and not happen. And there's a lot of people out there. Now Eamon Lynch is talking about it. The headline: as PGA Tour Commish Jay Monahan returns, it's a coin flip whether he and his Saudi deal can survive. And it's true. There's a lot of stuff up in the air here. Ron Price, Jimmy Dunn testified on behalf of the commissioner on Capitol Hill. They offered two different rationales to talk about why the Saudi Public Investment Fund was the right partner for them. They said the financing litigation was unsustainable. Live Golf would continue to pick off players in perpetuity. Both assertions are, of course, assumptions, as Eamon Lynch points out. People familiar with tour finances, according to USA Today, say that it really, that the tour may not have been in the danger that the tour is making it sound like they were. And quite honestly, most people that were going to bolt from the PGA Tour for Live Golf, they've already kind of done it. So who else was going to leave? I think Live Tour knew it probably wasn't sustainable or wasn't going to be able to be the disruptor ultimately that it thought it was going to be. So the deal for them made sense. But the deal for the PGA Tour still doesn't make sense to me. They had the TV deal. They have the bulk of the stars. They have the majors. They have the world golf rankings. They have everything. Live Golf had money. That's it. And the Saudis, endless supply of money. But even at some point, the Saudis were going to grow tired. Why do you think they came to the table to negotiate a deal with the PGA Tour? They didn't want to keep throwing bad money on bad money. There is nothing that says this deal with the PIF and Live Golf gets done. And whether or not Jay Monahan survives is definitely up for discussion, with a lot of guys just saying, we don't trust him. How can you have a tour that is essentially run by the players, where to a man they're telling you, we don't trust our commissioner? And it's not like they have a players association they have to go through. There's the middleman in all of these major league sports. MLB, NBA, NHL, NFL. The middleman is DeMaurice Smith. It's Tony Clark. It's Donald Fear. It's that Players Association rep for those leagues. There is no middleman between Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, and Jay Monahan. They're talking directly to the guy. And they're making it known they're not happy. They don't trust him. How does he survive that? How is that a sustainable relationship between those parties? And if Jay Monahan goes, so does the deal? How much more complicated does it make it for, Al Ramayan from the PIF? The Saudi PIF and this and the folks at the PGA Tour, do Jimmy Dunn and the powers that be with the PGA Tour who helped negotiate this deal, Jimmy Dunn and Ron Price, are they the ones that the figureheads that take over in that scenario? Jay Monahan comes back to work on Monday after a 4-week medical leave. How much longer he serves as commissioner of the tour after that remains to be seen. And by the way, that golden parachute that everybody thinks is out there, I don't know if it is. I mean, if the tour is so badly hemorrhaging money, I don't know what kind of golden parachute there is. The Saudis going to line his pockets? Maybe. But here we are with another major right around the corner in the Open Championship getting underway next week. And we're still talking about whether or not this Live Golf deal with the PGA Tour winds up getting done. I'm still leaning towards I don't think it happens. And Eamon Lynch writes a great sentence in this story. Soon it will become clear if the deal that the PGA Tour signed is the same one that the Saudis believe they have. There's a whole bunch of question marks out there. Want to send us a text to the show? 888-670-8549. 888-670-8549. Hit me up on the text line with anything that is on your mind. We talked about it. The top story in sports this weekend has nothing to do with baseball, hockey, football, basketball, Victor Wembanyama, none of those things. It'll take place on grass, but it's not baseball or soccer. Biggest event in sports this weekend will be early Sunday morning. If you're out partying Saturday night, you might miss it Sunday morning, and I feel bad if you do. We'll talk about it next on The Cash In. It's SportsMap Radio.
You gave him false hope.
Oh, don't be so cute. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, he's coming on you. Hi. Have a kiss. Thank you. One more. Thank you.
Wow.
Love you. How about one more? One more. Thank you. I do. What's left tonight? Let's see here. What is left to sweat out tonight? Top of the 7th, Twins and A's tied at 3 in Oakland. Let's see. What do they got in that game? Brent Rooker to hit. Be curious to see if the A's have any pieces they move at the deadline, like a Brent Rooker, who's had a pretty nice season for them. Got off to a good start, hit a little bit of a slide. Be curious if there's anybody on that roster, if they can move anything to try and get some more minor league parts. If you're that organization at this point, what are you holding on to anything for if you have something that other teams want? Twins A's tied at 3 in the 7th. Astros lead the Angels 7-5 going to the bottom of the 8th in Anaheim. Ohtani 2 for 4 in that game. His average up to 304. Unfortunately tonight, not his best night on the mound. 5 innings, 5 runs, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. His ERA up to 3.5. I think we could kind of put to sleep this idea that he's going to win the Cy Young Award and the MVP. I don't think that's going to happen. But could see him win the, well, not could. He's going to win the MVP. But Cy Young Award, 3.5 ERA, I'd be surprised if his numbers wind up being that good. He's 7-4, 3.5 ERA, 105 innings, 139 strikeouts. The whip is good, 1.12. For his career now, 35-18 with a 3.09 ERA, 580 strikeouts in 455 innings. I mean, his strikeout to innings pitched ratio is just insane. So, best event in sports this weekend. Oh, is that the only other? Let me see. Are there any other games? I said I want to finish what I was doing there. Tigers, Mariners. Yeah, that's it. So just a couple of games still going on. Rays and Royals were postponed tonight on account of rain. So best sporting event this weekend, without question, has to be what we'll see on Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. The Wimbledon men's final. Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. The latest odds on that, Alcaraz at plus 164. Djokovic is minus 200. And to me, the only bet is Alcaraz. I mean, that's a lot of juice to play, to bet on Djokovic in a match where he's going against somebody who is from a physical standpoint, is his equal in Carlos Alcaraz. So Alcaraz at plus 164, Djokovic at minus 200. The official, we should get the Pages picks. We should have done the Pages picks sound effect for that, but it's kind of weird to do it for tennis. We usually only do it during the NFL season. But if we're talking about Pages picks for the weekend, we're talking about Alcaraz at plus 164, and I would also bet him to win the first set. He's plus 124 to win the first set, and I think that if he wins this match, he will have to win the first set. Djokovic just gets stronger as the match goes on. So I think you got to go Alcaraz plus 164, and if you're betting on him to win the match, you're betting on him to win the first set at plus 124. So there is that. Then there is set betting. And I didn't look at this earlier, but this could be kind of fun. So here you go. If you want to bet on Alcaraz to win in straight sets, which is insane, if that happened, I'd be shocked. Alcaraz to win in straight sets is plus 650. To win 3 sets to 1, it's plus 550. To win 3 sets to 2, it's plus 550. For Djokovic to win in straight sets, it's plus 250. For Djokovic to win 3 sets to 1, it's plus 300. For Djokovic to win 3 sets to 2, it's plus 400. So that's how it shapes up if you're looking to do it that way. If you want to bet on who is going to win more games for the entire match, I mean, there are so many prop bets on this thing. It's crazy. But if you want to bet on who's going to win in terms of the number of games in the match, Alcaraz is plus 3.5. So he has to win a number of games. He has to win, if he's within 3 games, then he's fine. And Alcaraz is plus 3.5 at minus 118. Djokovic is minus 3.5 at minus 112. And that's what we got for the game spread, as it would be. So that's where we are right now. Boy, was Julio Rodriguez not running hard on this play? Boy, what a great throw. What a great relay play by the Tigers. They nailed, I don't know, he might have beat the throw. And they can't challenge it. They already used their challenge. Oh, that's so bad. They used their challenge on a play that meant basically nothing earlier in the game, and now the Mariners don't have a challenge to use. Oh, and man, Rodriguez was safe. Wow. Oh, Scott Cervais just screwed his team. Because Julio Rodriguez just got thrown out at home, but he was actually safe. So I don't know. I don't think they can challenge it. I don't know what their discussion is between the Tigers manager and the third base umpire, but it looks like the Mariners are going to have a runner at third with 1 out. Wow. And the worst part is they used a challenge on a play that really didn't have much of a chance of being successful. And they wound up, if they had it right now, it's a 5-3 game. I mean, Rodriguez is safe. Oh, there's no question Rodriguez would have been safe. Boy, man, Scott Cervais has had some managerial blunders. You think about last year in the postseason and then what we're talking about here on the play at home plate. Now, they are challenged. Something's being reviewed in New York in this game on the Tigers and Mariners. I don't know what it is. We'll wait and see. They're challenged. Something is either being reviewed or looked at. Somebody's arm. I think the catcher may have put his arm out and it hit Rodriguez. I don't know what it was, but Rodriguez was safe. I don't think you can challenge. You only get one challenge. Am I right? Do you only get one challenge, right? Justin, you only get one challenge. So I don't know what they're reviewing in New York on this play. It's kind of weird. Speaking of baseball, Brian Kenny joins us in 7 minutes. We'll talk with him, get his thoughts on all things baseball, the second half, the Shohei Ohtani potential trade deal. We'll get into it with him on that. What that deal would potentially look like. Does he think it will happen? I can't figure out what they're reviewing here, and I don't have the audio on, so I can't really tell you. But if you got anything, if you make time to watch any one sporting event this weekend, it has to be the Wimbledon men's final. Which I think it's going to be a classic. But I always think when you get the very best in the world, you're going to wind up with a classic. So we'll have to wait and see what the actual result of that match is. So they're saying Rodriguez is safe now. I mean, are the umpires allowed to challenge that? Are the umpires allowed to just say, hey, we think we got it wrong? I'm so baffled as to how that got overturned when the Mariners didn't have a challenge. I'm going to have to go back and look at that during the break. All right, Brian Kenny on the other side. We'll get some thoughts with him on on this second half of the baseball season. He's the host of MLB Now on MLB Network, Monday through Friday, noon Eastern, on that fantastic channel. And we'll wait to see what he has to say about a whole bunch of teams, Mariners included. Who's been the biggest surprise in baseball that may falter in the second half? Who's been the biggest disappointment that may rise to prominence in the second half of the season? We'll find all that out from Brian Kenny coming up on the other side. I'm Jason Page. Stay with us. This Friday edition of The Cash-In continues on SportsMap Radio. I got to see how this happened.
Space for that runner until he actually catches the ball takes you in that direction. Otherwise, you're going to stay clear.
Wow. I don't know how on earth. How bizarre. So they reviewed it to see if the runner was if the catcher was blocking home plate. They ruled he didn't unfairly block home plate, but then they said the call was overturned and he's safe. I don't know how that happens. What a bizarre play. I don't understand that at all.
I'll tell you about Ellie De La Cruz in a second here. If you're talking about
continuing on this Friday edition of the show, it's been a couple of weeks since we talked NASCAR with a good friend, Jerry Bonkowski, and he joins us on the program tonight. Of course, NASCAR.com, Auto Week, Auto Racing
continuing
Digest.
on this Friday edition
as well. And it has been a couple of weeks, Jerry. And, you know, we're 2 weeks since we last spoke, and Chase Elliott still hasn't won a race.
Let's start with the Ohtani stuff first and nail that. Buster Olney certainly had a lot of people talking yesterday, suggesting the Yankees are the favorite to land Ohtani in a trade.
In New Hampshire, that he has a very good chance of winning. It's a flat track. It's a 1 mile track. I think that, you know,
continuing on this Friday, I'll ask you about Ellie De La Cruz. Continuing on this Friday edition of the show, and I promised him all week, Brian Kenny hanging out with us from MLB Now. Does a terrific job there Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. All right, let's start with the Ohtani stuff first and nail that. Buster Olney certainly had a lot of people talking yesterday, suggesting the Yankees are the favorite to land Ohtani in a trade deadline deal. What was your reaction to that?
I don't know.
I'll ask you about Ellie De La Cruz in a second here. If you're talking about the continuing on this Friday edition of the show, and I promised them all.
Well, they only get the one run. 5-3, end of 8. Yes, definitely.
Continuing on this Friday edition of the show, and I promised them all week, Brian.
Mine here is fine.
Continuing on this Friday edition of the show, and I promised him all week, Brian Kenny hanging out with us from MLB Now. Does a terrific job there Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. All right, let's start with the Ohtani stuff first and nail that. Buster Olney certainly had a lot of people talking yesterday, suggesting the Yankees are the favorite to land Ohtani in a trade deadline deal. What was your reaction to that?
I don't know. I think it's still possible. I think the Angels, from everything I'm hearing, are listening. I think they're loath to do it, and I understand why. In the real world, it's difficult to deal this guy. It's a franchise-changing event, and it would be a bad signal for the franchise itself. So I don't know. I don't know if that happens. Also, it's a rental. It's very dicey, the whole thing. It's a seismic player. You'd be doing it for a rental now. I don't know if it happens. Maybe it does, and there's other information out there. But I think the Angels are in a tough spot to make that happen.
Yeah, but look, I mean, if he's I know they're in a tough spot, but if the guy's leaving anyway, I mean, he's in that.
What if he's not?
But
what if he's not? What if you can negotiate with him?
I get it, but what he said in Seattle basically intimated if he's not on a win, if they can't win, that he's tired of losing.
Yeah, I know, but players say that. Jason, players say that, oh, I want to be with a winner. Winning is so important to me. And if it's the most money and he's comfortable, he seems to be very, very comfortable. They won these sweepstakes before. Remember, it was kind of an open process last time around. They've won it already. They probably think they can win it. Now, maybe they have, and I don't know why Ohtani's people would do it. There's no play in it for Ohtani to say to the Angels, hey, look, I'm not coming back, right? It's always good to keep a bidder interested. So he wouldn't do that. And I think they want to keep him. And there's a chance they keep him. By the way, people get very comfortable playing in Anaheim. And look at Mike Trout, very comfortable there. And if we're going to win. Yeah, winning's important. They're not losing. They're not like, he's not going out there losing every day. They're just barely over 500. So if you're saying over the next 10 years, can they win? It's possible.
How about the Rangers? I mean, look, again, as a potential spot for Ohtani, if they do deal him at the deadline, they already went and got Chapman. We know the talent on this team. We saw all the all-stars they had. Could the Rangers go the rental route? It's such an expensive rental, but they have the prospects. They have the package.
It is interesting. I mean, maybe. I don't know if he wants to, if he want to go there, if it's worth the package to have him there. I'll say this. If you were, and this is a different way of thinking about it, if you were going into a playoff series, who's the number one player to impact that series? It's that guy. He can pitch 2 games for you in a series, not the wild card, but in a division series, he might be able to pitch twice. He can relieve, and he's slugging 600. So yeah, he'd be worth it as a rental, I would say. I just don't see the Angels doing it in the real world.
It's just such a game-changing amount of prospects. We saw what Washington got in the haul for Juan Soto. And
that was 2.5. They had 3 years of Soto, 2.5.
Yes.
3 playoff runs. Very different situation.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. But I mean, you're talking about a franchise-changing, potential lot of prospects here for a team. And you could still bring back Ohtani in free agency if you're the Angels in that.
Well, you see, now I don't agree with that either. I think if you trade him away and you think, hey, we'll negotiate and he'll just come on back. I don't know. It's not like it severs the relationship, but it doesn't help it. Whereas if he's still there and he's your guy and you can talk to him all the way up, because if he's yours, you can talk to him the whole way through. You have a real advantage. And I think they probably feel that way. He's been happy there. Again, this whole thing about, I want to win. What is he supposed to say when he's in front of everybody? You got to say something. I get it.
Hanging out with Brian Kenny, MLB Now, weekdays, MLB Network. You mentioned Trout, and I think it's kind of interesting. If Ohtani leaves in free agency and this thing starts to sort of disintegrate into a rebuild, a retool, can you see a scenario where Trout, who again has never really had much of an opportunity in the postseason, turns to the organization and says, look, I want to go somewhere where I can win? And would they acquiesce that? One, does he strike you as the type of player that would ask? 2, do you think they would acquiesce?
It's possible. It's a big deal. It's a lot of money per year. He's also getting injured a lot now.
Every year.
We've kind of reached that point where it's a tipping point because last year, off the top of my head, did he play 119 games or something like that?
Yep.
And he'd have 40 homers in 119 games. So it's not like he missed half a season, but he missed a good portion of the season.
Always
but
enough that it cripples their season. It feels like, Brian.
Right? No, you're right. That's what I'm saying. Last year, with 40 homers, it's like, wow, he didn't not show up. But you're getting to the point. You're looking at his 30s, and he's been very sporadic playing in his late 20s. So if you're the Angels, you do have to be a little more serious about that. If he comes to you quietly and says, look, what are we doing? I think you do have to listen to that. Where I would have thought that would be an outlandish thing a year or two ago. But we're at the point now where he's not playing full seasons, and he's an awful lot of money, and he'd bring an awful lot back. And who knows, maybe a change of venue helps him. But it is starting to make more sense for the Angels, given that, he's playing 100 to 130 games per year anyway.
Give me the first half team that has surprised you that you think comes back down to earth over the next 10 weeks.
Oh, I think you changed your question there. I was already going to say Reds, but then comes down to earth, Marlins. Those are my answers.
Really? The Marlins?
Oh, yeah.
So good for such a big sample, though.
Yeah, you look at their production, and they should be about a 500 team. Now, doesn't mean they have to be a 500 team. They could be better than that. They have been better than that. Again, I'm saying I don't believe in the Marlins to be a playoff team. But if you had asked me at the start of the year, hey, do you expect them to be 13, 15 games over 500? I would have said no as well. So I'd be wrong on them. I guess there's upside in that Alcantara and Chisholm can play and play well. They haven't. They're supposedly their two best players haven't even played well. In Chisholm's case, hasn't played really much at all because of injury. And they've still been able to play quite good. So, but I don't believe. I mean, their raw production doesn't speak to that. The Reds, they've got 6 position players that have all arrived that all have an OPS plus of 120 or better. 6. So that is a strong foundation. And Ellie De La Cruz and Joey Votto has come back. Their pitching is better than it's been in the first half. So I think the Reds are absolutely for real and a ton of fun. I think the Marlins are a year away, and they've been a very big surprise to me so far.
Coming up on the other side, we'll get his thoughts on Luis Arraez trying to get to 400. Arraez came into tonight 386, 387, had an 0 and just like that, now he's down to 380. But we'll ask Brian for his thoughts on that. And, a team that could be a big surprise in the second half that was a disappointment in the first half. You'll be probably, I was surprised to hear his response to it. You'll hear that coming up in a couple of minutes as well. So stick around for that. What is that noise? Some weird noises coming out here. So anyway, couple things I want to that I want to get to before we wrap up the show. It's one thing for professional athletes to get endorsement deals, especially, new athletes, people just drafted into the NFL, that sort of thing. It's another thing entirely for a NFL player to get drafted into the league and his girlfriend to score an endorsement deal. Will Levis, drafted by the Tennessee Titans, was hoping he would be drafted on the first night. Of course, he was drafted on night 2 of the draft. Well, apparently his girlfriend, yes, his girlfriend, not his wife, his girlfriend, Gia Duddy, is a growing star of her own. She's a social media influencer. Fans couldn't help but notice Gia Duddy by his side who already has partnerships with brands such as Ulta Beauty, Bloom Nutrition, and ELF. Well, now she could add Burger King to the mix. Levis attributes to the attention she received on draft night. As he revealed on Barstool Sports, the mid-show podcast this week, Duddy's TikTok followers have doubled since draft night. He made her an even bigger star. When asked what Duddy's NIL deals were looking like, he said, "She just signed a Burger King deal. It's crazy. Yeah." I was like, "You're paying for lunch." Wow. Makes his girlfriend pay for lunch. I wouldn't even joke about that stuff. More with Brian Kenny on the other side on the Cash In. Stay with us. Mariners trail Detroit 5-3, bottom of the ninth. Nobody out. Cal Raleigh leading things off against the Tigers in the bottom of the ninth. Boy, a lot of teams who you were wondering what they'd do coming out of the All-Star break have had rough nights tonight. All right, back to more of my conversation with Brian Kenny, MLB Network, the host of MLB Now, Monday through Friday at noon Eastern.
I'll ask you about Elly De La Cruz in a second here. If you're talking about the Marlins, you got to talk about Luis Arraez, 386, 387, whatever it is around the All-Star break here. How realistic is a potential run to 400 for him, especially when you look at what is around him in that lineup and team's ability to sort of pitch around him? I know Soler has been fantastic.
400 is like a near impossibility. I mean, just on the sheer face of it. I haven't checked his batting average plus in a while. Batting average plus is your batting average as compared to your peers that year. Mm-hmm. His batting average plus was number one all time. It was better, Jason, than Nap Lajoie in 1901. He was hitting 440 because back in the old days, like guys were hitting 350 all the time. No one's hit 350 in the last 12 years. I did the research on this. So to hit 350 in this day and age is outlandish. Now, he has that stroke. We did a deep dive on his StatCast, profile. He hits between 90 to 95 miles per hour, which on the whole by StatCast is not considered a hard hit ball. Yeah. But it is a hard hit ball, right? 90 to 95. And that's his version of a hard hit ball, right? You follow me? Like He's not 6'3", 240 taking this big outlandish swing. He's left-hander. He's 5'10", 175, bang. But he hits the ball hard. 90 to 95 and between 5 and 20 degrees. That's what we call the Arraez zone, not a barrel zone.
Like Tony Gwynn.
What's that?
Feels like Tony Gwynn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In an era where nobody is doing that. So that has him in the 380s, which is remarkable. But man, I watched him do the first night where he did a 1 for 5 and he just hit a couple of line drives right to a glove. It's like, oh man, it's so hard. You go, 1 for 3, your batting average comes down like 1 for 3 with a walk. So watching him, he needs all these 5 for 5 nights to get it back. And he did, I think, 3 of them last month, but that's extremely difficult. It's a tall order, especially in this day and age with velocity. He's the number one contact hitter in the game, but man, it's so hard.
You gave me the first half surprise that you think goes the wrong way. Give me the first half surprise that's been a disappointment that you think does still have a run in them for the postseason.
Oh, look, I think I've been doing it on MLB Now, like on almost daily basis. The malaise clubs are the story of the first half.
Sure.
Mets, Padres, Cardinals, White Sox, Mariners, Guardians. These teams, we all thought they were getting better. It wasn't just that, hey, they were good, but they're old. No, they were all supposed to get better. I immediately kind of wrote off the White Sox and Cardinals in their own column because it's like Cardinals are a disaster. White Sox, a disaster again, post La Russa. Not Tony's fault anymore. There's something just wrong that's not happening. But the Mets and Padres are like their own entry, aren't they? I mean, we didn't expect that. The number 1 payroll of all time, the number 3 payroll in the game, that's the Padres, and they are below 500. That's the most stunning thing of the season, that money did not get them entry into wild card position. Here's something I'm going to throw on my show today.
Sure.
Do you know the top 4 clubs in payroll are not in playoff position right now? It's also the Phillies and the Yankees. Top 4. And Jason, that doesn't happen. Usually if you're top 3 or 4 in payroll, you're getting into the playoffs. It doesn't mean you're the best team, but you're getting into, especially these playoffs, 6 deep in each league. But to answer your question, Padres have the production. They have the raw production, the raw talent, and it's fairly youthful. I'd be stunned if they don't make the playoffs.
Lucas Giolito, you mentioned the White Sox. That could certainly be a guy on the move at the trade deadline. And the Mets, Steve Cohen basically said everybody other than Justin Verlander could wind up being moved. If it's not bolted to the floor, the Mets could be moving a lot of guys.
Yeah, but it's tougher for them to do it too. Again, this is my preface that I say, in the real world, it's tougher. You and I like to play ruthless GM, flip the assets. Come on, let's go back up the truck, back it up. But in the real world, if you were the GM of the Mets, you'd be loath to just break it up already. There is a long way to go. Like, I know they're are they 8 out, 7 out? I think they're 7 out.
Oof.
There's a long way to go. You have to have some belief in your original plan. And if you're the Mets, like, the alternative is to really retrench. And that, I think, would be doubly painful. So they're in a tough spot. I think they're better. If I'm in the real world, I play it out if I'm them.
Yeah. Last one. I know you got to go. You talk to a lot of baseball people. We talk a ton about Ohtani. Outside of him, is Ellie De La Cruz the most exciting thing in baseball right now?
Oh, yeah. It's so crazy. Here's the best part. So I'm doing something on him today in my essay as well on MLB Now. He has the best arm in the infield. He has the hardest throws. He throws 97 from third base across the diamond.
Sean Dunston back in the day.
Yeah, he's not on a pitching rubber. He's flat foot, throwing 97 across the diamond. He also, we know, he's the fastest guy in the sport. Fastest guy, home to first and home to third. Number one. He's top 15 in one of the hardest hit balls. He's hit the ball 116 miles an hour. He's hit the ball, I think, 440 feet. So he's not the hardest hitter in the game, but he's about the hardest hitter, and he's the hardest thrower, and he's the fastest runner. And he's hitting 325. Jason, he's a polished player. Like, his slash line is attractive. 325, I think it's like a 380 on base. So he takes some walks here and there. He's not all hacking. And he's slugging like 525, 530. So he's polished. Like, as soon as I saw him playing a game, I was like, wait, he knows how to play. So he's not just some tools monster, some StatCast darling, some freak of nature. He's a good baseball player on top of that. So the answer to your question is yes, absolutely.
Brian Kenny, catch him weekday afternoons, noon Eastern, MLB Now on MLB Network. You're always generous with your time, my friend. I appreciate it.
Take care, Jason. See ya.
Love talking baseball with Brian Kenny. It's just so much fun. All right, bottom of the ninth, 5-4 Detroit on top of the Mariners. Runner on first, 2 outs, J.P. Crawford at the plate with a 3-1 count and Julio Rodriguez on deck. We have drama. You want drama? We got drama. Now Crawford walks. You got first and second, and it's set up for Julio. Some drama to end the show tonight. That's what I like. Oh, they're gonna make the Tigers gonna make a pitching change and make sure that we leave the airwaves tonight without a game being finished. I hate when that happens. But I don't think that's the only game that is yet to be completed. I think the A's are still, Twins and A's is top of 9, 3-3 in Oakland tonight at the Coliseum. So there you go. A's trying to get a win to start the second half. If you're the Twins and you lose one to the A's, you just, like I said, you feel like you lose a game and a half when you lose to the A's. It's been that kind of season. Should be an interesting weekend around baseball. And again, the next 2 weeks, so telling for so many organizations. And it was great to talk with Brian Kenny again, who you can catch on MLB Now on MLB Network Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. If you missed anything on the show tonight, make sure to go and subscribe to the Cash In Podcast. If you're not subscribed, go and do it already. The Cash In Podcast available for you Monday through Friday. Right after the show ends, we put it up. You can go to Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and go check out the Cash In Podcast. If you are not subscribed to me on Twitter, or following me on Twitter, I should say, go and follow me. We will soon have a subscription service available on there with a special weekly show just for subscribers. You're going to want to check that out. We're going to be doing all sorts of giveaways, but you're going to have to be a subscriber in order to get them. So you'll make sure you want to do that as well. Thank you this week to everybody who worked with us. Charles Carter producing and engineering, Brian McDonald producing and engineering, Justin Barbosa producing and engineering the show tonight. Great guests all week long. This is the toughest week in sports radio, and I am proud to say we have made it through it. And we almost made it through it being able to watch the last baseball game of the night together, but that's not going to happen. They are, let's see, still first and second for the Mariners here in the ninth with 2 outs. And a 1-2 pitch coming to Julio Rodriguez. Oh, and he took a called strike 3 right down the middle to end the game. The nightmare season for the Mariners continues. Oh. Julio got frozen by a breaking ball right down the middle to end the game. That's how it ends for the Mariners tonight. Wow. Gotta wonder if Scott Service's job is at risk if this thing goes bad for them. The bad decisions in the postseason last year, team that looks lifeless this year, or have the Mariners just regress to the mean? That's going to do it for us. I'll see you next week. That's the Cash In. Bye. Thank you, sir. Have a good night. All right. Does it for us on the video side as well. We are through it. Most grueling week in sports radio. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you're not following me on social media, on Twitter at the back page, on Threads, Jason Page 77, Facebook, just look for the Cash In. Same thing on YouTube, all that good stuff. I'll see you all back here on Monday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. SportsMap Radio, the SportsMap Radio app, all of our video platforms as well. I'll catch you all next week. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Stay out of the heat as well. It's hot all over the country. Try to stay out of the heat. I'll see you all later. Have a good night.